Counting Birds, the idea that helped save our feathered friends. Written by Heidi Stemple and illustrated by Clover Robin. Frank Chapman loved birds. He worked at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, creating exhibits about birds. He wrote books and magazine articles about birds. He studied birds' habitats and habits. He read the research of John James Audubon, the most famous ornithologist of all time. Frank Chapman loved birds. In 1899, he began his own magazine called Bird Lore. Every 2 months, Bird Lore was published and read by other bird lovers. Around this time, Americans were starting to think about the natural world around them. First scientists and poets, then government leaders, and finally more and more regular citizens were starting to talk about conservation. How could they better live in their world? How could they save the wilderness that was disappearing, the forests that were being cut down, the waterways that were being polluted, and the animals and birds that were being over-hunted? But not everyone cared about conservation. On Christmas Day, sports hunters would gather, choose teams, and hold a bird competition. All day long, the hunters looked for birds. Large birds, small birds, all birds were game. At the end of the day, the birds were counted. The winning team was the side that had shot and killed the most birds. Frank Chapman did not love this tradition. In the pages of his magazine, he set out to stop it. Now, Bird Lore proposes a new kind of Christmas-side hunt in the form of a Christmas bird census, and we hope that all our readers who have the opportunity will aid us in making it a success by spending a portion of Christmas Day with the birds and sending a report of their hunt to Bird Lore before they retire that night. Count them, he proposed, but don't kill them. That first year, on Christmas Day, 1900, 27 birdwatchers in 25 locations from Connecticut to California counted common loons and killdeer, winter wrens, and red-winged blackbirds. They observed hermit thrushes, barred owls, Carolina chickadees, fish crows, turkey vultures, and spotted and canyon towhees. In all, Bird Lore proudly reported close to 18,500 birds from 89 different species. Not one bird was killed. That first count was not the last. Every year in December, more people join the count. Every year, more areas are added. And every year, more and more birds are counted in every corner of the United States, as well as Canada, Mexico, and Colombia. Other counts happen all over the world. The owlers are the first ones into the field. They climb out of their warm beds at midnight and call down owls in the dark. By the light of the moon, they raise their hands to their mouths and whistle. They use recordings of real owls to hoot. They wait and listen. When an owl calls back, the owlers mark their maps and move on to the next spot. When the sun starts to rise, so do fresh birders who arrive to take over. Some owlers say goodnight and some keep counting. All day long, groups observe and take notes in their count circles. Sandwich terns and song sparrows, creepers, thrashers, bufflehead, brant, and bobwhites. All birds are welcome. Not all birdwatchers are in the field. Some count the birds that visit their backyard feeders. All birders are welcome. At the end of the day, the birders collect their notes and add their numbers. Later, the National Audubon Society will compile all the data and learn many things: how climate change affects bird populations, which species are in trouble, what areas need conservation help. The birders know this is important for science, but that night, what is really important are their stories. Who found the most owls? Which rare birds were spotted? What records were broken? The Audubon Christmas Bird Count has become the longest running citizen science project and wildlife census in the world. Everyone wins: the birds, the birders, and science. And all of this because Frank Chapman loved birds. More about Frank Chapman. Frank Mitchell Chapman was a self-taught ornithologist. He was the associate curator of mammals and birds before becoming the curator of birds in 1908 at the American Museum of Natural History. His magazine, Bird Lore, eventually became Audubon Magazine, which is still published today. In the modern Audubon Christmas bird count, each count area is a circle. A map point is identified, and a circle with a diameter of 15 miles is drawn around it. This is the count circle. In November, birders sign up to participate in the count with local bird clubs and Audubon societies. During one 24-hour period on a day between December 14th and January 5th, each circle counts birds, compiles data, and reports to the National Audubon Society. In 2016, which marked the 117th count, 73,153 birders participated in 2,536 count circles. They counted 56,139,812 birds from 2,636 different species. Frank Chapman would be very happy with these results. Would you like to count too? If you would like to be an Audubon Christmas Bird Count birder, contact your local bird club or Audubon chapter to find out if they participate in the count. If they do, a good way to start is to join their feeder watchers. If you already have a bird feeder, you can set up at a window to observe on a count day. But even if you don't have a feeder, you can watch for birds. There are lots of great identification aids. I prefer a field guidebook, but there are phone apps and computer sites that have tons of information too. I use Audubon Owls on my smartphone, and I spend lots of time at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology website, www.allaboutbirds.org, which has identification bird calls, including owl calls and more. For general information about the count, visit www.audubon.org/content/join Christmas bird count. Want to get involved in other ways? There are many projects studying birds that are always looking for citizen scientists, young and old, to help collect data. Each February during President's Day weekend, participants in the Great Backyard Bird Count watch out their windows and report all their bird sightings online. This count, begun in 1998, is great for beginners because anyone can participate all day or even for just 15 minutes. To learn more about baby birds, scientists need the help of citizen scientists with a project called Nest Watch. To participate, citizen scientists sign up online and learn how to safely monitor nests. Then, once a nest is spotted, observation notes are recorded online. There are more specific ongoing bird projects as well. Birds of all types, endangered and common, are being studied. Species such as hummingbirds, hawks, kestrels, and condors are being studied, and information is always welcomed by groups like the Journey North Hawkwatch International, American Kestrel Partnership, and Condor Watch. A note from the author. Many kids first learn about owling from the 1988 Caldecott Medal winning book Owl Moon by author Jane Yolen, who happens to be my mother. Owl Moon is a family story. I am the little girl in the book. My dad, David Stemple, took all of us, both my younger brothers and me, out into the woods by our home in western Massachusetts to call down owls. He taught us to call and to listen. When I moved back home after living in the South for many years, I started joining him on the Audubon Christmas bird count. After his death, I continued to owl the count with his map and his recordings. I learned from the best, and I am pretty good. I don't call owls often, except in schools, where I talk to students about writing, but once a year I am one of the Audubon Christmas bird count owlers I talk about in this book. I go to bed around 7 p.m. and set an alarm for midnight. I climb out of my warm bed and lead a team of owlers for 7.5 hours, calling and counting owls. We call ourselves the OMG, the Owl Moon Gang. On our best night in 2012, we called down 67 owls, 54 eastern screech owls, 9 great horned owls, and 4 barred owls. When I reported my numbers at the gathering where our data was collected, everyone oohed and awed. There is still a bit of competition after all, but no birds are harmed, thanks to Frank Chapman.